right, guys. Hey, welcome. It is another episode of the No1 Podcast. I am your host, Coach Jake. Hope you guys are doing fantastic today. Had a great weekend. What is going on with y'all, man? We got Cinco de Mayo today. Do you even know what Cinco de Mayo is? I didn't. I had to look it up. I thought maybe it had something to do with Mexican independence. It has nothing to do with the state of Mexico and their Independence Day. Totally different. I guess, from what I understand, and those of you guys out there that are better experts than me at this, it was the Battle of Puebla, which was like a battle between Mexico and France, randomly, and the French far outnumbered the Mexican army, and yet the Mexican army prevailed, won. That is why we celebrate Cinco de Mayo. It is kind of a symbol of resistance and fighting, and I don't know. I love that spirit. I think that, there are great fighting cultures. I look to Japan. I look to America. I look to Mexico. You always great fighters coming out of those places. Obviously, other places, Eastern Europe, Russia, all kinds of, all over the world. But anyway, that is the history of Cinco de Mayo. I thought it might have to do something with Mexican independence. Nothing to do with Mexican independence. Anyway, I hope you guys are doing good. Wanted to talk a little bit, obviously, about that. As ever, if I can answer any questions for you with regards to what I can help you with. Catch as Catch Can Wrestling, business coaching. I'm an award-winning business coach. Just won the Performance Coach of the Year. Helped thousands of people hit their revenue and profit targets and their impact targets and all that kind of stuff, especially people struggling. If you need me to come in, help turn around your company, I'm the guy. You can check me out on LinkedIn. I've got some pretty good reviews on there and my credentials. Anyway, wanted to talk about a number of things. One of the things that I've been absolutely fascinated with in the spirit of Cinco de Mayo, the spirit of Cinco de Mayo is the spirit of rebellion, fighting spirit, doing the right thing, overcoming big obstacles. It's funny because most people don't even know what it is. Like I said, the Battle of Puebla is really what is celebrated by Cinco de Mayo, but most people think it's Mexican independence or something else. Anyway, I'm just trying to educate you guys. By the way, did you ever hear that joke? Everybody wants Cinco de Mayo, everybody wants to drink like a Mexican, but not work like one. I mean, some of the hardest working, best people you can ever get to help you out with something come from Mexico. I have some roots there. My 23andMe, I got some indigenous American from the Southwest. So is my wife. So obviously, so are my kids. Big fan. Anyway, very interesting time too, by the way, with all of this stuff going on with the border and Trump. Just curious what your take is on all of that. If, from what I've seen, it was Biden who was crazy lax. But if I go look back just to Obama and Clinton, they had even harder immigration policies than what Trump is asking for. I don't know. I'm not educated on this. You guys educate me. Throw something out in the chat if you have anything on that. I think it's relevant to Mexico. And it's also interesting. I was my wife and I went to St. Louis this weekend. She had an event we wanted to attend for her athletic endeavors. And we went out there. It was a really great show. And we went to the St. Louis Arch. And the St. Louis Arch is very fascinating. You could see the video that I put up on my Instagram. But the St. Louis Arch is interesting because it's actually a national park and had all this great historical stuff. And I learned a lot about Texas, California, and Mexico. And they had a whole series on kind of how, because I guess St. Louis is considered the gateway to the West, right? A lot of people back then on their move out to California before it was really a state or anything. They would stop in St. Louis and then move out west. So I find it absolutely fascinating. But I do want to get to what I found really, really cool. And by the way, how many of you guys watched UFC? Saw poor Bo Nickel eat it. Now, are you guys fans of Bo Nickel? I'm a huge fan of Bo Nickel. I don't really know him personally, but he is a Hodge Trophy winner. He is also a two-time Chalice Award winner, which is the best pinner. So I'm a huge fan of Bo Nickel. I think he's a beast, but he lost. He lost this weekend. And it's interesting because I saw a lot of people throwing up hate and talking crap. And I made a post on my own personal page because I felt it was apropos. I'm just going to read part of what I wrote on my own Facebook page. This is on my personal page with regards to the fight. And like I said, it's one of those kind of man in the ring posts. What's that Teddy Roosevelt quote on the man in the ring? Anyway, any of you guys fans of Bo Nickel? I guess this guy, De Ritter, is a very good kickboxer. Is there a real conversation about Bo Nickel needing to go down a weight class? I think he was ambitious, and I love it. I love guys that push themselves and have that fighting spirit, talking about rebellion and whatnot. That was 100% Bo Nickel. Did it go his way? No, man. He learned some things, right? You either win or you learn. And he learned some big things during that fight. But I posted this, and I just want you guys to consider it. Here's what I wrote. One match, one fight, one attempt at greatness is nothing when you've gotten an ocean of attempts in your repertoire. Science proceeds through calculated failure, experiment, data gathering, testing, and applying lessons learned from mistakes. Those who don't take risk and learn from failure will always be the beneficiary of those that do. It almost takes more than you think it will to win. Do it anyway. Do it again. So I don't know if that resonates with any of you guys. I just was really bummed out with watching some of the ways people were responding to Bo Nickel losing. Sure, I know there was great expectation for him. He's a beast. Wrestling is the greatest predictor of MMA champions, but it's not pre-scripted, guys. Newsflash. Like Shoot Pro Wrestling, it's a real competition, right? It's not scripted pro wrestling like WWE. It's competitive, professional combat sports, and as such, you could bet on it because you never know who's going to win or lose. And what if we had 10 matches between those two? Would it go 6-4, De Ritter to Nickel, or would it go? Maybe that was a fluke for De Ritter. I don't know. So you got to be smart about this. But do you think that this lit a fire under Bo Nickel? Do you think he'll go and dominate, go down a weight class and dominate? Just curious what you guys think about that. But anyway, I wanted to talk, let's talk a little bit about Cinco de Mayo. Like I said, Cinco de Mayo is not Mexican Independence Day. It commemorates the underdog victory of Mexican forces over the French at the Battle of Puebla in 1862. Interesting stat, only 17% of Americans celebrate Cinco de Mayo this year, plan to. But its roots in resilience and resistance are more relevant than ever in today's polarized world. So I think that's really what I hope everybody takes from it, Cinco de Mayo. It's not an excuse to drink. It's like, that's also what makes me upset about St. Patrick's Day. These like ethnic holidays that are associated with boozing, losing control, losing respect, doing dumb things. From a symbol of anti-imperial resistance to a U.S. celebration of Mexican-American culture and, controversially, a marketing bonanza for brands. Unfortunately, it usually is booze that makes some money today. So the Battle of Puebla, real quick, give you a snapshot on this. Mexico's army, outnumbered and outgunned, 4,000 to almost 8,000 French troops. They achieved this huge morale boosting victory. The win delayed French ambitions in the Americas and may have prevented support for the Confederate South during the U.S. Civil War. So those of us that are abolitionists and opposed to slavery, that's another wonderful symbol incorporated in the Cinco de Mayo celebration. The spirit of Puebla, the Battle of Puebla. Strategic thinking, love that. That's what I do all day with No1 coaching and 10x business coaching is business strategy, revenue strategy. Strategic thinking, resilience, and unity, key lessons for business and leadership. And I saw this very interesting study the other day. I don't know if you saw this. It may be very, very disturbing and kind of shake the foundations of what like one of the, remember when you saw The Matrix for the first time, it was like, oh my God. I want you to understand this. And if you guys have read any of my writings, I write extensively over at medium.com. It's a great blogging platform. You can just type in my name, Jake Shannon. And I write extensively there, and I talk about all kinds of things. And one of the things I like to talk about is structures of government. And sometimes I think we need to critically look at the stuff that is constantly propagandized to us, like, oh, democracy or oh, republic. Well, let's really dig in and look at what all that means. And the University of Zurich did a really, really, people are saying unethical, so there may be some lawsuits. But at the University of Zurich, they did something pretty sketchy. And what they did was actually go and run a social experiment with AI. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think this was the first time has been done. I think it's the first time it's been done, acknowledged publicly. I believe, honestly, personally, I believe that there are people in the intelligence business that have been doing this for actually quite some time. I believe AI has actually probably been out and available, at least in a rudimentary version that's capable of doing what I'm about to suggest. Do I have proof of that? Of course not. That's what my gut tells me based on what I've seen in the last 10 years. Well, maybe 15 years, maybe even 20 years. Well, not 20, maybe about 15 years since the advent of Facebook. And it's this. There was a very, very interesting experiment run by the University of Zurich. And I'm going to bring up actually my article. My article is fantastic. Not blowing my own horn, but I really am proud of it. The article is called "The New Frontier of Manufactured Consent: How AI Bots Secretly Manipulated Reddit Users Without Their Knowledge." Recent revelations about University of Zurich researchers secretly deploying AI bots to manipulate opinions on Reddit represent a disturbing evolution in how consent can be manufactured in the digital age. Now, I want you to keep this in mind. Remember, Facebook got in trouble for meddling in elections. I have a feeling that this Zurich thing, it wasn't the first time, although this is the first time that it's actually been explicit and proven to have happened. So now we know that it can happen, and it probably already has happened in the past, especially when we look at other election meddling, especially since Obama rescinded the Smith-Mundt Act, which allows the government to begin to propagandize its own citizens. I don't know if you know any of this stuff. If this is crazy talk to you, I apologize. Everything I'm talking about is verifiable. You can look it up. There's tons of info. Anyway, the University of Zurich's unauthorized experiment involved AI systems posing as trauma survivors, counselors, and political commentators, generating over 1,700 comments in a popular debate forum. Preliminary findings suggest these AI-generated persuasive messages were 3 to 6 times more effective than human comments in changing opinions. So this is what I'm wanting you to understand is it demonstrates Noam Chomsky's concept of manufactured consent. I'm not a fan of Noam Chomsky's economics. I think he's completely wrong. I think that debate has shown that to be true. Data has shown that to be true. But just because he's wrong in one area, you can't do that. You've got to be able to say, hey, this idea was wrong, but this idea was right. Manufacturer Consent, that is a great book, great documentary. Is talking about back in the 80s, how governments can manipulate votes through the media. Okay. So now we're seeing University of Zurich proving this with social media and AI bots. This is what's very interesting to me. This incident demonstrates how Chomsky's concept of manufactured consent has evolved in the AI era, with sophisticated language models now capable of personalized persuasion at scale. The research also raises profound ethical questions about informed consent, digital autonomy, and the future of online discourse. So you don't know if you're talking to a bot anymore. In late 2025 of April, so literally last month, moderators at Reddit's r/Change My View, a forum with 3.8 million members dedicated to reasoned debate on controversial subjects, revealed something deeply concerning. For months, community members have been unwittingly interacting with AI bots deployed by researchers from the University of Zurich in Switzerland. These researchers had conducted what Reddit's chief legal officer, Ben Lee, called a, quote, improper and highly unethical experiment, end quote, without the knowledge or consent of the platform's users. This is wild stuff, but now we know it's out there. And now you have another toolkit in what I call mental self-defense. Matt, when I ran a radio show, I had my own radio show for years, had great guests on it. For everybody from Jesse Ventura, the bassist of Nirvana, to tons of great authors. Really great time. But I did it over 10 years ago. But the name of the radio show was called Mental Self-Defense. And it's a concept that I put out. And basically the making of mental self-defense is, there's a lot to it, but the high level framework is a strong understanding and grasp and training in the informal fallacies of logic. This is a lot of times the rules of debate in like forensic debate, ad hominem attacks, argument from authority, that kind of stuff, informal fallacies and logic. Okay, that's the first step. Step two is understanding rudimentary statistics and the difference between type 1 and type 2 errors, false negatives and false positives. The third part is an understanding of social engineering. How are we subject to social psychology, and how is that being used to nudge, in the parlance of some people in government, behaviors and maybe votes? Okay, so I'm going to continue my article. The scale methodology of this experiment are particularly troubling. Researchers generated over 1,700 comments using various large language models, which is AI like ChatGPT, without disclosing that these were not authored by genuine community members. Instead of transparency, they programmed their AI systems for maximum persuasive impact. Some bots claim to be sexual assault survivors, trauma counselors specializing in abuse, or African-American individuals opposed to the Black Lives Matter movement. The intent was clear: to show how effectively AI could change human opinions on controversial subjects. So let me just ask you something. You look at a social media platform, the biggest one, which I think is still Facebook, maybe it's X now, but with funding from In-Q-Tel, which is American intelligence agencies like the Central Intelligence Agency and all that, funded, you know what I'm talking about. And then this idea of sock puppetry, you could Google that word, sock puppetry, but now it's actually AI based. We know that they had sock puppet farms. And then you look at Obama's timing for the repeal of the Smith-Mundt, M-U-N-D-T Act. Okay. What makes this experiment even more concerning is the sophisticated profiling techniques employed. The researchers didn't simply deploy generic AI responses. They used a separate AI system to analyze the user's posting histories to infer personal attributes, including gender, age, ethnicity, location, and political orientation. This information was then used to tailor persuasive messages specifically to each user, essentially weaponizing personal data to enhance manipulative effectiveness. Most disturbingly, preliminary findings indicate that these AI-generated interventions were extraordinarily effective, quote, between 3 to 6 times more successful in changing opinions than human written comments. The researchers noted that throughout their experiment, Reddit users never expressed concerns about the authenticity of the comments, demonstrating how seamlessly these AI systems could integrate into online communities while considering their true natures. Now, this is interesting, right? Because the head legal officer or whatever of Reddit's pissed off and saying this is deeply unethical and whatnot. And it is. But is it unethical to do this and then release it publicly as a warning? Because had this not been done, they may have never released this kind of information, to let you know what the capacity is for this kind of stuff. Once revealed, the experiment prompted immediate backlash. Reddit moderators filed an ethics complaint with the University of Zurich, and the platform is now considering legal action against both the university and the research team. The university has acknowledged the situation, stating that its ethics committee, quote, intends to establish stricter review procedures in the future, end quote, and confirmed that the researchers have voluntarily decided not to publish their findings. Is that ethical? It's already been done. And now we know that there is a serious risk here. Shouldn't this be published? Shouldn't this go into debates? Maybe this should be central to AI ethics debates. In the context of Chomsky's manufactured consent and the actual results, 3 to 6 times more persuasive, and it's not human, that means one person can be tweaking these kind of levers. That's a little asymmetrical, right? In a democracy. However, this justification from University of Zurich fails to address the fundamental ethical violation of conducting psychological manipulation on unwitting participants. To understand the profound implications of this experiment, let's revisit Noam Chomsky and Edward Herman's influential concept of manufactured consent, first introduced in their 1988 book of the same name. There's a great old documentary about the same time. I think I saw it in 91, way a long time ago, but it's great. Their propaganda model focused on how mass media systems effectively promote the interests of powerful societal groups through structural factors rather than explicit overt censorship like maybe what you're seeing in England these days. So it's manipulation to get consent instead of threat of jail. So maybe this is an A-B split test. We've got the UK where what works better, this authoritarian thing or the B test, the manipulative propaganda model of manufacturing consent. So Chomsky and Herman's original model had 5 filters through which news and information pass. Ownership concentration, we see that still today, right? Most of the news is owned by a few corporations or BlackRock or Vanguard, and they own each other, so it's like one unit. Advertising is a primary source of income, so we see that 70% of ads on TV come from pharmaceutical companies. You see, right? You see how these levers are being used against you. Reliance on approved sources, fact checkers. FLAC, that is negative responses to media statements. And anti-communism as a control mechanism. While these filters were conceived in the pre-internet area, the core insight remains relevant. Powerful interests can shape public discourse without resorting to direct censorship. But I would argue that this is still censorship. This is not informed consent. This is manufactured consent, which is not ethical, right? So we learned of informed consent as a direct result of the Nuremberg trials where the experimentation being done on people was not good. And so we are finding ourselves revisiting it. This may be one of the most important concepts with regards to human interaction, right? Because we could say government citizen, but government's made out of people and citizens made of individual people. And so it really is person-to-person relationships. So I'm curious, your view is informed consent. That's where I'm at. Informed consent is the fundamental principle of ethiks. And then I think that from there, I base it kind of on a theory of mind. Sympathy is the way Adam Smith chair of moral philosophy at University of Glasgow in Scotland, or is it University of Scotland in Glasgow? I can't remember. Anyway, as Chomsky himself noted, quote, the best way to control public opinion is, in fact, to promote vigorous debate. You set the limits of debate. That's called the Overton window. You set the limits of the debate, showing what the most extreme acceptable opinions are, and then allow and encourage debate within those limits. The thoughts that fall outside the acceptable spectrum are just off limits, end quote. This subtle control mechanism shapes discourse without appearing to restrict it. They also call this not just an Overton window, but controlled opposition a lot of times, right? Or limited hangouts. These are all words that you can look up that are, I think, part of that mental self-defense repertoire under the social engineering category. In today's digital landscape, the concentration of media power persists, but has evolved. Rather than traditional media conglomerates, we now see tech platforms wielding enormous influence over information flows. The University of Zurich experiment demonstrates that manufacturing consent has entered a new, potentially more insidious phase with the advent of advanced AI systems. What do you think, guys? I mean, you guys are, I'm upwards between like 8 and 15 viewers at any one moment. Anybody have perspective on this, on what I'm saying? Are you sure who you're talking to or debating online is even real? That's a legit question. That's what this University of Zurich in Switzerland with Reddit, that's what this is really implying. What makes AI-generated persuasion particularly concerning is its demonstrative effectiveness. Research from Stanford University's Polarization and Social Change Lab found that, quote, AI-generated persuasive appeals were as effective as ones written by humans in persuading human audiences on several political issues. And now that's not just Stanford, now Zurich is finding that as well. The AI-generated messages were consistently perceived as, quote, more factual, logical, less angry, and less reliant upon storytelling as a persuasive technique. Interesting. So do you have your mental self-defense toolkit? Are you able to vet this data and make informed decisions? Or are you being fed what they want you to be fed? This effectiveness of AI persuasion, combined with the capacity for personalization and scale, creates unprecedented potential for opinion manipulation. Unlike human persuaders, AI systems can operate continuously, generate thousands of unique messages tailored to individual psychological profiles, and seamlessly blend into existing communities without raising suspicion. So this is part of why what I think like a blockchain technology would be wonderful for. So I'm not a fan of voting, and it's not that I'm against democracy. I'm a huge fan of the Bill of Rights. I believe in the Bill of Rights. I think it's one of the most, if not most important documents in the history of humankind, in particular human liberation and a peaceful cooperation between individuals. Liberty, the way I put it, is liberty is basically justice meted out to authority. You understand? So liberty is justice for the people. If that makes any sense. It constrains those that would otherwise constrain you. If you put some of this on blockchain, if you got rid of voting and started instituting like a national lottery, similar to how you're chosen for jury duty, but for executive positions, then people couldn't complain, and it wouldn't attract. We do know that positions of power attract psychopathic personalities, right? Those that are known to lack empathy and backstab and be more ethically challenged. Anyway, the Zurich experiment represents only a limited application, academic application of these capacities. In the hands of well-resourced actors with political or commercial motives, maybe somebody like George Soros, right? Or Bill Gates, such technologies could potentially influence elections, shape consumer behavior, or alter public opinion on crucial issues without detection. This represents an evolution beyond Chomsky's original concept, not just setting the boundaries of acceptable debate, but actively and covertly manipulating the outcomes within those boundaries, right? So I'm just curious what your guys' take is on all that. I have a whole article. It goes on and on in depth about that. You can go over to Medium. I think my username is @JakeShannon. I'll also have it up at the blog on no1coaching.com/blog. I'll have that up in the next couple of days. I have a ton of free material that hopefully is very useful to you. Anyway, I'm curious. We're talking about the Battle of Puebla and resisting overwhelming odds, the spirit of Cinco de Mayo, and in the context of this mass issue with regards to being manipulated. And I'm trying to get people, not just an awareness, but a spirit of fight on how to help ameliorate these problems, right? So what do you guys think? How do we best handle this when you don't know if it's AI or not, right? What do you do? Curious if you have anything. So one of the things you should do is you need to be auditing your own digital presence. So one of the things that they did is they had not only an AI system that was communicating and persuading you, but they had an AI system researching your background and your psychological profile to make its arguments more appealing and persuasive. Are you leaving all that data out there? You know what I mean? Like, what is going on? People are always like, if something is free like Facebook, you're the product. It's your data. So why are they collecting all this data? Are they creating in-depth, amazing profiles so they could just constantly suck the money out of your wallet? I mean, that's a reality. That's a reality. Could be happening. Okay. So again, I want to just hit a recap here. 17% Americans, only 17% plan to celebrate Cinco de Mayo. I think maybe if they understood what it stood for, that number would go up, which it was this overwhelming underdog win with the Mexican army beating the French army at the Battle of Puebla. The French had almost twice the number of combatants, and Mexico resoundingly beat them away and won. AI bots on Reddit outpersuaded humans 6-1 in earning persuasion badges, or deltas, I guess they're called. AI bots use personalized micro-targeting by scraping up to 100 user posts for demographic profiling. I'm just going through these notes that I wrote down. It's a very fascinating time. Okay. So are you even aware of this stuff? When you're in, how much time are you wasting arguing, and you're arguing with a bot, and the bot's trying to persuade you to vote one way or the other, or to buy? Maybe you're buying things you shouldn't be buying. Anyway, you guys are awful quiet today. Usually I get some people blowing up on the chat. Can you guys hear me? Give me a number 1 in the chat if I'm coming through okay. Anyway, I'm going to hang out here for about 5 minutes, answer any questions you guys may have, any comments, tell you about what is going on. Like I said, last weekend, I went to St. Louis, Missouri. Love St. Louis. It's the second time I've gone in the last 12 months. Went out there with Deputy Kevin Coates to train the Missouri Sheriff's Association, maybe 9 months ago, something like that, 6 months ago. Fantastic. Trained all the defensive tactics instructors in wrestling for law enforcement, double wrist locks for cuffing, pinning for incapacitation and control, and takedowns from traditional arrest positions. Also, inoculation training so as to not freak out, and games for multi-officer arrests. When they have more than one officer, what can they do to better control and hold somebody while waiting for cuffing, so that there isn't the chokes, the shootings, that kind of stuff. Fantastic. I've really come to enjoy Missouri. We were in St. Louis, got to stay in the West End, I guess, which is really fantastic, cute little area. Stayed at the AC, I think, AC or AO, AC Hotel. Really great hotel over there. So that was amazing. We are Connor McCurry, ET phone home. Dude, I have not heard that since high school. Appreciate it, dude. Genius, brother. I hope you feel better after your commentary. Just so you know, my neck is like this because I had cancer as a 15-year-old and had to do a lot of radiation. I have a bunch of scars. And despite that, I wrestled on it for 15 years. I ended up damaging my C5 and T1 vertebra pretty severely. also have a occluded, which is completely blocked or destroyed carotid artery. But appreciate the high school level ridicule. Genius. Anyway, what else is going on? So speaking of wrestling, I've been busting my hump trying to get Shoot Pro going. We just got the Connor says, fuck, man. Yeah, you feel like a shithead now, don't you? Just teasing, brother. It's cool. It's cool. I don't judge you. Even though you judge me, it's cool. Yeah, so we're doing great things with Shoot Pro. It blows my mind, honestly. Pat Miletich is our president, El Presidente. Frank Shamrock is our chairman. Larry Zbyszko, Penn State wrestler. Bruno Sammartino during the WWF days, apprentice. WCW announcer during the battle of the Monday Night Wars. Larry Zbyszko's on board. Gerald Briscoe, WWE Hall of Fame. Zbyszko's WWE Hall of Fame. Miletich is UFC Hall of Fame. If anybody should be UFC Hall of Fame, is Frank Shamrock. Also brought on board, of course, my number two on this, who's just been amazing, is actually Matt Granahan. He's been just really fantastic. Also, he brought in, he connected me to Jenny Santana, son of Tito Santana, also a jiu-jitsu competitor and seminar. Fantastically amazing young lady. Very excited to be working. We just are putting together the final touches on the season. We put out, we filmed, I think we should have minimum of 6 episodes of a Shoot Pro full TV season that will be streaming exclusively on YouTube. And with our YouTube partners, we're aiming for maximum distribution. Also, we're going to be cooking it together into like a 3-hour extravaganza. And that will, I believe that will go on Triller. We have an open-ended contract with them. I don't know if I'm just going to go to YouTube and bypass them, although Triller is nice for kind of that social proof. I don't think I'm going to get the distribution I really want out of them. I've done some research. YouTube is just king. But it is a nice feather in our hat, and I appreciate those guys over there, Michael and Adam, great guys. So, cool stuff going on with Shoot Pro. Scientific Wrestling, we just had Frank the Legend Shamrock go out to our affiliate in Hawaii, Jazz Glacius hosted. It was amazing, dude. Like, I'm so excited for all the people that got to learn from Frank. Frank was over at CatchCon with us, blew people's minds there too. We're also sending Frank to Italy at the end of the year. So all you guys in Europe, all you guys that have attended Scientific Wrestling camps, we're going to head back to Europe. I'm bypassing the UK. I'm kind of not a fan of what's happened over there since lockdowns. So we're going to go do that in Italy. The Prime Minister of Italy seems amazing. Yeah, so anyway, Enrico is our man over there, Sabadini, and he's hosting in November. Hit me up, DM me. I'll send you all the details. Should be freaking awesome. What else is cooking? What else is cooking wrestling-wise? Yeah, that's about it right now. Just everything right now. I'm pushing on this Shoot Pro because you've seen this like ridiculousness of Real American Freestyle. Mad props to Izzy Martinez. He's a great coach. And I wish him all the best of luck. I personally would not have gone with Hulk Hogan. I mean, he was talking so much nonsense and has such bad baggage. The other thing is I think they might have missed the target on the product. I just am not a fan of freestyle, especially modern freestyle. I know they're going to make some modifications, but I know it's popular in women's wrestling, the fastest growing sport, which is fantastic. I love that. I don't know if it's going to translate over to a spectator sport. There's a very deliberate reason I did what I did with whom? With Shoot Pro, the names, Pat, Frank, Jerry, Larry, all those guys. Very, very deliberate design. And the rule set by Carl Gotch and myself, mostly myself. Carl helped me with the King Catch rules, helped me make some modifications, and then I had to make some executive decisions, what I felt was best given the market and the current market. And so I've done the same thing with Shoot Pro. Shoot Pro, man, is so cool. You can go over to shootprowrestling.com. We put up, I don't know if you guys understand product lifestyle, or life cycle. But there's these ideas of like a beta test, a minimum viable product, vaporware, full deliverable, that kind of stuff. Well, anyway, we have a minimum viable product you guys can watch. We have a cage match, just like wrestling, but under true competition, pro wrestling rules under competition, a cage match, singles matches, tag team matches, triple shoots, which are like a triple threat in WWE. Iron Man matches coming out with this. So, this is the challenge of being an innovator, right? Being an innovator is challenging because you're taking all the risk. People could steal your ideas. This is why I'm really trying to make a big stink. So if you guys know anybody, again, go check out shootprowrestling.com. We're actively seeking investors and sponsors to get evergreen marketing, dude, because this thing is going to last forever online, and I am blowing it up. So, you could just see it on our Instagram page. We're creeping up on Scientific Wrestling. It has 200,000. We have 70,000 on Facebook, and 20,000 on YouTube, which is growing. Anyway, appreciate you guys. All that's going well. Things are going super good on the business coaching side. Very, very honored to be a part of Grant Cardone's team. And, I won the 10X Business Coach Award for 2024, helped hundreds and hundreds of Grant's clients achieve their targets. And I'd love to do the same for you. You can check out more information, resources. I got all kinds of stuff over at the website, the blog. It's number one, spelled like that, No1coaching.com. Anyway, appreciate the hell out of you guys. Thank you so much for showing up. Even you, Connor. Maybe next time you give some people some grace a little bit instead of just being rude. But again, I don't hold it against you. You're probably a younger person that is in the process of learning these lessons. Anyway, appreciate you guys. And holler if I can help you. Again, remember, check out scientificwrestling.com. You want to become an affiliate. We're doing great things there. Quantumcatchwrestling.com is the landing page there. Of course, number